The galaxy was full of dangerous places, but there were some worlds that every explorer feared even to speak about. They were known as Deathworlds, planets so hostile that no living species could ever hope to survive there. The scale went from Class 1, already deadly, up to Class 20, the highest level, the kind that meant instant death for anyone who dared to step on its soil. For centuries, explorers had shared old stories about a legendary Class 20 planet, a world filled with raging storms, violent beasts, and unstable ground that shook like an angry giant. The maps of this planet were buried deep in archives, marked only with warning signs and sealed by councils. No one had dared to approach, and those who did never returned. The name of this world was whispered like a curse. A small group of alien explorers known as the Calorians discovered fragments of a star chart while searching forgotten ruins near the edge of the Orion Arm. Their scanners confirmed it. The coordinates matched the legend. They had found the lost Class 20 Deathworld. Their leader, Captain Zarek, stood frozen, his scaled hands trembling as the red symbols glowed across the console. "This cannot be real," he muttered. "Class 20 worlds do not exist anymore. They consume themselves, they burn themselves out." But the readings were clear. The planet still lived, its atmosphere alive with storms, its surface radiating energy. And then came the strangest part. There were signals. The crew leaned forward in silence. The monitors showed faint transmissions, regular patterns, music-like pulses, even laughter. The language was distorted, but there was no mistake. It was not random. It was communication. "How?" whispered First Officer Chiral, her silver eyes wide. "Who could survive there?" The crew exchanged nervous glances. Class 10 was already beyond imagination. Class 15 was certain doom, but Class 20, that was a myth made real. To find signals there meant something impossible, something unnatural. The Calorians debated through the night. Some wanted to leave immediately, to erase the coordinates from memory and never speak of it again. Others argued that such a discovery could bring them eternal glory, proof that their names would be remembered for centuries. Captain Zarek finally made the choice. "We will not land, but we will observe. If there is life here, we must see it with our own eyes." The ship approached the world. Sensors screamed with warnings. The planet's storms lashed at its orbit. Lightning bolts the size of mountains stretched across the skies. Tornadoes ripped oceans apart. Volcanoes burst fire into the heavens. It was chaos given form, and yet, through the chaos, the scanners detected something more. Artificial structures, heat signatures that were not wildfires but engines, lights, energy grids. The crew's fear turned into disbelief. As the ship drew closer, the cameras pierced the thick clouds. The crew expected to see ruins, perhaps wrecks of ships that tried and failed. Instead, they saw something that made their hearts stop. On the shores of a raging sea, with monstrous waves slamming the cliffs, stood people, not aliens, not strange creatures, but humans. They were not fighting for survival. They were not crying in pain. They were relaxing. Some were building homes. Some were lying under artificial suns. Others swam in waters where beasts larger than battleships lurked beneath, and the humans laughed. The explorers could not breathe. It was madness. It was insanity. Humans were not only living on the most dangerous world in the galaxy, they were enjoying it. One of the crew whispered in horror, "This is not a settlement. This is not survival." "No," Captain Zarek answered, his voice shaking as the images played again and again. "This is a vacation." The silence that followed was heavier than the storms outside. The Calorians realized they had uncovered something that should have remained hidden. For if humanity could turn a death world into a playground, then what were they truly capable of? The explorers recorded every image, every sound, not knowing that their discovery would soon spread across the stars, and the galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. The Calorian explorers could not sleep. The images of humans laughing on a Class 20 Deathworld haunted them. The galaxy taught that no creature could last a single hour on such a planet, yet humans were swimming, smiling, and building camps like it was paradise. Captain Zarek ordered deeper scans. Drones were released into the storm. Small machines with reinforced shields flew down into the chaos. Each second was a battle against the atmosphere. Tornado winds ripped metal apart. Acid rain burned holes into armor. Yet some drones pushed through. What they sent back left the crew speechless. The footage showed humans running along cliffs where the ground split open and lava poured into the sea. Children played a game where they dared each other to leap across boiling cracks, laughing every time the fire roared beneath them. On another coast, massive beasts with armored hides rose from the waves, jaws large enough to swallow shuttles. The humans were not fleeing. They were diving into the water beside them. Their voices carried joy, not fear. "This is not survival," Kirel whispered again. "This is celebration." The drones recorded more. Human camps stretched across valleys that shook with quakes every hour. Some humans built tall glass towers that bent in the wind like reeds, somehow never breaking. Others strapped wings to their arms and threw themselves from storm-tossed mountains, gliding through lightning bolts as if it were a sport. The HFY Warriors grew restless. The images clashed with everything they believed. Humans should not be alive. They should be bones in the soil. Yet here they were, thriving. Captain Zarek finally made the decision no one wanted to hear. "We go down." The crew froze. Every survival instinct screamed against it. Landing on a Class 20 meant certain death. Yet Zarek's voice was firm. "If we return with only drone footage, no one will believe us. We must see them up close. We must understand." The landing craft shook like a leaf as it entered the atmosphere. Fire wrapped around its hull. The pilot fought the controls while alarms screamed in every corner. For a moment, it seemed the storm would tear them apart. Then the ship broke through the clouds, and the crew gasped. The ground was chaos in motion. Rivers of molten rock carved through jungles where trees fought each other with thorned branches. Creatures the size of towers hunted through the valleys. Skies cracked with thunder as electric storms lit the horizon, and in the middle of this madness stood humans, calm, confident, alive. The Calorians hid their craft inside a cave of black stone. From there they watched. Their eyes grew wider with every sight. A group of humans walked across a razor-thin ridge above an abyss, balancing as if it were nothing. One slipped. But instead of panic, the human laughed, grabbed a rope and swung across to the other side while friends cheered. Another group had built pools of glowing water that steamed with toxic fumes. The explorers' scanners screamed warnings of certain death, yet humans soaked their bodies in it like healing baths. Some even poured it into cups and drank. The Calorians shook with disbelief. Kirel gripped her console so tightly her knuckles cracked. "Do you not see? They do not resist this world. They embrace it. They make it their playground." Captain Zarek's voice dropped low. "This is why they are feared. This is why humans are different. They conquer by refusing to be conquered." The explorers continued to spy, but then something terrifying happened. One of the humans turned. His eyes locked directly on the hidden cave. The crew froze. The human smiled. He raised a hand and waved. Kirel's blood turned cold. "He knows we are here." Before they could react, the human pulled out a device. It sent a burst of sound across the storm. A signal, playful, almost like music. Within seconds, dozens of other humans turned and faced the same direction. Their faces lit with amusement as if they welcomed guests. The Calorians panicked. Had their stealth failed? Had humans trapped them? The captain tried to order retreat, but it was too late. A booming voice echoed across the cliffs, translated by universal comms. "Travelers," the voice said with calm power. "Why hide? Come join us. The water is warm. The fire is bright. This world is not our enemy. It is our friend. Come see for yourself." The crew sat in silence, their scales prickling, their hearts pounding. Humans had not only survived the death world, they had mastered it, and now they were inviting strangers to step into their nightmare paradise. The Calorian explorers sat frozen in the cave. The humans' invitation echoed in their minds. It was not just a greeting. It felt like a challenge, a dare, as if the humans already knew the aliens would not have the courage to step outside. Captain Zarek's hands tightened on the console. His scales shimmered with unease. "They should not know we are here. Our cloaking is absolute," he whispered. Yet the human had looked straight into the shadows, straight at them. Kirel trembled. "It means their senses go beyond technology. They felt us, or worse, they expected us." The storm outside roared louder. Lightning split the skies like white fire, the explorers argued. Some wanted to flee, to leave this cursed world before it swallowed them. but Zarek's silence hid them. His eyes remained on the humans. We must learn. If we leave now, the galaxy will never believe us. And if these humans can thrive here, then they are far more dangerous than we ever imagined. With shaking hearts, the Calorians stepped out of the cave. The air struck them like knives. Poison winds clawed at their lungs. Their armor screamed with hazard alerts. Every instinct told them to run back. But in the distance, humans stood without suits, their skin bare, their eyes calm. They looked like creatures born for this nightmare. The humans were climbing a black cliff as the storm hurled fire above them. Rocks fell, waves crashed below. Yet they ascended as if the danger thrilled them. One slip would mean instant death. But when a young human slipped, he laughed, reached out, and another caught him with one arm. Together they kept climbing. Their joy echoed like music against the thunder. Chiril's voice shook. How do they not fear? How do they laugh when death is inches away? Captain Zarek whispered. Because they are not surviving. They are living. The explorers followed from a distance, recording every step. The humans moved in groups, helping one another. Their bodies bore scars, burns, and wounds, yet none slowed down. They carried their injuries like trophies. Every moment seemed to prove their resilience. Then the Calorians witnessed something that made their scales crawl. A monstrous creature emerged from the sea. Its body was armored with jagged plates, its mouth wide enough to swallow 10 ships. It rose, roaring with fury, shaking the cliffs. The explorers panicked. They will die. No one can fight that, Chiril cried. But instead of running, the humans cheered. They leapt into the water toward the beast, spears in hand. Some were dragged under the waves, but soon red blood stained the sea. The creature thrashed and bellowed until the humans climbed its back, laughing, striking, riding it like conquerors of chaos. When the beast finally fell, the humans dragged its body to shore. They lit fires on its bones. They feasted as if it was sin. The Calorian explorers stood frozen before the towering human with scars across his chest. His hand was still extended, waiting. His smile looked warm, but his eyes burned with something deeper, something that made every alien scale tingle with unease. Captain Zarek hesitated. The galaxy taught him that shaking hands was a human gesture of trust. Slowly, carefully, he reached out. The moment their hands touched, Zarek felt a strange pressure. The human's grip was not cruel, but it carried weight. It was as if the man's strength was wrapped in restraint, as if he could crush steel but chose not to. You have come a long way, the human said. Few dare to approach this world, fewer return. Chiril stepped forward, her voice trembling. Why? Why are you here? This is a Class-20 Deathworld. No species should survive. Yet you live, you thrive, you even laugh. The human's smile widened. We are on vacation. The Calorians froze. Their minds struggled to understand. Vacation was rest, relaxation, safety. Yet here, where storms tore mountains apart, humans called it leisure. Another human approached, a woman with short hair and piercing eyes. She carried strange tools strapped to her belt. She studied the Calorians and spoke. You think this world is trying to kill us, but you misunderstand. It is not our enemy. It is our teacher. The explorers exchanged nervous glances. Captain Zarek asked carefully, What do you mean? The woman knelt and scooped the toxic sand into her palm. Her skin should have burned, yet it did not. She let the grains fall slowly as she explained. Humans grow stronger when challenged. We adapt, we bend, we refuse to break. This world pushes us, and we push back harder. That is why we are here. The Calorians stared in disbelief. Their scanners screamed warnings about poison, radiation, and lethal pressure, yet the humans stood unaffected. Ted, they were not just resisting the world, they were reshaping themselves with it, Chiril whispered. This is impossible. No species can survive exposure to so much chaos. The human leader looked at her with calm fire. No species, except us. He gestured toward the camp, inviting the aliens to follow. Reluctantly, they walked behind him. What they saw was beyond imagination. Humans had built homes on cliffs where lightning struck every minute, towers that swayed with the storms instead of breaking. They had woven ropes across volcano mouths and used them as bridges. Children played games where they jumped across boiling pools, laughing at danger. Everywhere the explorers looked, death was present, and yet humans treated it like play. Captain Zarek felt his chest tighten. Why? Why risk so much? Why not build in peace on safe planets? The leader's eyes turned serious. Because safe planets make soft people. Comfort makes us weak. Here, we sharpen ourselves. Here, we remember what it means to fight. This world reminds us that the galaxy will never hand us survival. We must seize it. The Calorians shivered. They realized the terrifying truth. Humans did not simply endure hardship. They sought it. They welcomed it. And in doing so, they became something no other species could match. As they walked deeper, the explorers noticed something else. Strange devices embedded into the rocks, glowing softly. They pulsed with human energy signatures, machines that seemed to bend the environment itself. Chiral asked nervously, "What are these?" The woman smiled. "Enhancements. We shape the world to our taste, but only enough to make it interesting. We keep the danger. We keep the challenge. We do not erase it because it is the danger that makes us alive." The Calorians exchanged horrified glances. Humans could tame even a death world, yet they chose not to. Instead, they balanced on the knife's edge between life and extinction, and they called it fun. Captain Zarek's voice was low. "If this is vacation, then what do you prepare for in war?" The leader did not. The Calorian explorers returned to orbit with heavy hearts. Their ship was filled with recordings of the impossible, images of humans laughing on cliffs of fire, swimming with monsters, and feasting on creatures that could crush cities. Every second of footage screamed one truth. Humanity did not only survive on a Class-20 Deathworld, they thrived, they celebrated, they vacationed. Captain Zarek stared at the files. His scaled hands shook as he whispered, "The galaxy must know, but the galaxy will not believe us." Kirel leaned forward, her eyes wide with dread. "They must believe. If humans are strong enough to treat death as leisure, then every empire, every council, every fleet is already too late." When the Calorians finally transmitted their discovery to the Galactic Council, silence spread across the great chambers. Leaders of 100 species gathered. Their voices shook as the recordings played on massive screens. They watched humans bathing in toxic lakes, climbing storm-racked mountains, and smiling at death like it was a friend. The hall erupted in chaos. "This is false," one emperor shouted. "No species can endure this. They forged it. They deceived us." Another cried out, "Then you explain the signals, explain the laughter, explain the humans waving at the camera." The council debated through the night. Some demanded that the footage be destroyed, fearing panic. Others demanded war. If they can turn death into pleasure, what can they do with battle? We must strike before they spread. But a few voices whispered another truth. If they can live where none of us can, then perhaps we must learn from them or be crushed by them. As arguments raged, the news spread beyond the council walls. Across the galaxy, fear ignited. Ordinary species watched the footage with trembling hearts. Parents held their children close, whispering, "Humans are not lit. US, they are something else." In distant colonies, fleets began to strengthen their borders. Soldiers were drilled harder, yet commanders felt dread, for no amount of training could match what they saw. A race that turned extinction into entertainment. On one broadcast, a reporter whispered the words that soon burned across every star system. "If humans laugh at death, then what will they do to us?" Meanwhile, the Calorian crew struggled with guilt. Chiral's voice cracked as she spoke to Zarek. "We unleashed this knowledge. We showed the galaxy what should have stayed hidden, and now fear will drive them to madness." Zarek closed his eyes. Fear was already there. We only gave it a face, and that face is human. But the storm did not stop at fear. Soon, alliances shifted. Some empires called for uniting against the human threat. If they can master a Class-20, no fortress is safe, no planet untouchable. Others quietly sent envoys toward Earth, hoping to beg for friendship. And humanity, watching the reactions, smiled. for they knew exactly what message their vacation had sent. They had not hidden their strength. They had displayed it openly, and the galaxy trembled. Yet amidst the fear, darker whispers began to spread. If humans treat death as play, perhaps they are not only dangerous, perhaps they are unstoppable. The Calorians listened to the transmissions, their ship drifting in silence. Kyrell finally spoke the thought none dared. If this was only their vacation, then what will their war look like? Captain Xerec stared into the storm beyond the viewport, his voice low, heavy, filled with dread. War will not look like war. It will look like the end. And as the ship sailed into the void, the galaxy prepared, empires divided. Some would seek to chain humanity, some would seek to kneel, and others would sharpen their blades. But one truth had already burned itself into every heart. The most dangerous planet was not the Class-20 world. The most dangerous planet was Earth itself, for it had created humans, the unbreakable predators who smiled at death. The Galactic Council did not sleep after the revelation of the human vacation world. Fear burned through every empire, but curiosity burned just as bright. Some rulers demanded war, others demanded peace, but a few demanded proof. They wanted to test if humanity's claims were real. A coalition of species volunteered or perhaps were forced to descend upon the Class-20 Deathworld. They came not as conquerors, but as witnesses, soldiers, scientists, and envoys boarded armored shuttles, their hearts trembling. If humans could walk freely here, then they too would try. The Calorian crew was ordered to accompany them, Captain Xerec argued, but the council silenced him. You brought us this truth. You will guide us deeper into it. When the coalition shuttles pierced the atmosphere, chaos greeted them instantly. Storms clawed at their shields. Molten rivers split the land. Acid rain boiled against the hulls. Many envoys vomited in fear as their instruments screamed warnings of certain death. Yet when the storm cleared, there they were, humans, waiting calmly. They stood on the cliffs, waving like hosts greeting guests. Their smiles made the aliens uneasy. A tall human stepped forward, his voice carried through the universal comms. Welcome. You wanted to see, now you will. The envoys followed. Every step was agony. The air sliced their lungs. The ground quaked beneath their feet. Creatures lurked in every shadow. The aliens wore the strongest survival suits in the galaxy, yet alarms blared endlessly. They were suffocating. Meanwhile, humans walked barefoot beside them, laughing. Some splashed in rivers that burned with chemical fire. Others leapt across cracks of boiling lava as if playing a game. Children climbed cliffs as storms hurled lightning. Their joy was louder than the thunder. One alien envoy collapsed, screaming as his suit began to fail. The toxins ate through his filters. His body twisted in pain. Humans rushed forward not to save him with medicine, but to tear away his suit. The aliens panicked. He will die without it, they shouted. But the human only smiled, pouring a strange liquid into the envoy's mouth. Within moments, the alien coughed. His chest eased. He breathed the poisoned air and lived. The suit had been his prison, not his shield. The humans taught them quickly. You cannot resist this world. You must let it in, fight it, and you will break. Embrace it, and you will change. But not all survived. Some envoys refused to listen. They tightened their suits, clung to their shields. Within hours, their bodies gave out, crushed by pressure, burned by storms. Those who followed the humans endured, scarred but alive. Their minds, however, began to fracture. They saw children running across razor ridges, laughing as rocks crumbled beneath them. They watched men and women wrestle beasts larger than buildings and return with smiles. They saw mothers teaching their young not to hide from the storm, but to dance in it. One alien scientist whispered in horror, "This is not a vacation. This is ritual. They are teaching every child to love death." But the truth cut deeper. Humans were not worshiping death. They were mastering life by embracing danger. They were rewriting the very rules of survival. As days passed, the coalition grew weaker. Sleep brought nightmares. Food turned to ash in their mouths. Some began to weep. Some begged to return home. Others simply stared in silence, broken. The humans only smiled. "Do you see now?" they asked. "This is how we grow. This is why we are fine. Eared, because where you see the end, we see the beginning." When the coalition finally returned to orbit, many were half mad. Their reports were trembling fragments of horror and awe. Some could not speak at all. The Calorians wrote the truth in their final log. Those who joined the humans on their vacation did not find joy. They found terror. They found despair. But the humans found strength. And that is the difference that will decide the galaxy. Word of the failed expedition spread like fire. Empires that once doubted now trembled. If their strongest envoys could not last even days where humans called it leisure, then no army could ever hope to withstand them in war. And in the shadows of the council halls, whispers grew darker. We cannot let them rise further. We must act, or it will be too late. But others whispered with equal dread, it is already too late. The coalition's return was not a triumph, it was a nightmare. The strongest envoys of the galaxy had walked the human vacation world, and most had come back broken. Some screamed in their sleep, others sat in silence, staring into nothing. A few refused to even breathe without human guidance. The recordings they carried spread like wildfire. Every empire watched the same scenes, humans walking casually across rivers of fire, children diving into seas filled with monsters, families laughing as storms shattered mountains around them. The galaxy trembled. In the halls of the Galactic Council, leaders argued until their voices cracked. Some shouted, "This is proof. Humanity is a threat beyond measure. They must be destroyed before they spread further." Others whispered in terror, "Destroyed? How? If they call extinction a holiday, then how will war even touch them?" The Calorian crew who had started the discovery sat in silence. Captain Zarek's scales had dulled from sleepless nights. His eyes no longer shone with ambition, only with dread. He stood before two. He counseled to speak. His words were slow and heavy. "We went seeking answers, but what we found was not survival. It was transformation. Humanity does not endure death worlds. They claim them. They bend them. And if they can turn a Class 20 into a playground, then there is nothing in this galaxy they cannot reshape." His words fell like stone in water, rippling through every heart. Kirel added, her voice shaking. "We thought their laughter meant they were fearless, but it means something far worse. It means they have accepted death. They do not fight it. They dance with it, and that makes them unbreakable." Silence followed. A silence so deep it carried more weight than any threat. For the galaxy realized what this meant. If humans could not be broken by the deadliest world, they could not be broken by armies, fleets, or fear itself. But then a new message arrived, a transmission from the very humans on the Deathworld. It was broadcast openly, deliberately, to every star. The image was of a human woman standing on a cliff, lightning flashing behind her. Her voice was calm but carried across the void. "To the galaxy," she said, "we hear your fear, we see your panic. You call us monsters, you call us threats, but understand this. We are not here to conquer you. We are here to challenge ourselves. The universe throws death at us, and we laugh because every challenge makes us stronger." Her eyes burned with fire as she leaned closer to the camera. "Do not mistake our joy for weakness. Do not mistake our vacation for peace. If this is how we rest, imagine how we fight." The broadcast ended, but its echo remained. It spread through empires like a shadow. Every leader, every soldier, every citizen whispered the same words in fear. If this is vacation, what is war? The Calorians made their final log entry. Their voices were weary, but their words clear. The most dangerous planet in the galaxy is not the Class 20 Deathworld. The most dangerous planet is any world that humans decide to step upon, because once they arrive, it no longer belongs to chaos, it belongs to them. Across the stars, fleets moved, some prepared for battle, others prepared to surrender. Some sought alliances in desperation, but all carried the same truth in their hearts. Humanity was not simply another species. Humanity was the storm, the fire, the predator that turned death into play. Captain Zarek stared into the void from his ship, his final words spoken only to himself. "We wanted to see the truth. Now we can never unsee it. The galaxy fears the death world, but the death world fears the humans." And with that revelation, the stars seemed darker. For every world now wondered, not if humans would come, but when.